The story begins by showing some people plotting a false accusation against a famous agent named Johnny English. Then, in the mountains of Tibet, China, we will see a man named Johnny English who is training for something he wants to achieve. Even the last training he had to go through was tough. When all the hard training, Johnny English was ready to accept a mission that he would do. It didn't take long. Johnny English headed to a company called MI7 to carry out his mission. There he met Pamela Thornton, the new leader of MI7. Here, we learn that Johnny English had been on a mission that led to his retirement and decided to spend his retirement in the mountains of Tibet. Pamela then explained that a former agent from MI7 reported about an assassination plot that would target the Chinese Prime Minister. Johnny English would be assigned to handle it. While going downstairs, Johnny English met Simon, who is Agent 1. Simon then took Johnny English to MI7's weapons room. There Johnny English saw many strange and high-tech weapons being made. There Johnny English became acquainted with Patch Quartermain, the head of the armory. Patch has even lost several limbs due to careless things while testing bombs. After that, Pamela came back to Johnny English and informed him that he was going to Hong Kong tonight. And then Johnny English went to Hong Kong to be accompanied by a rookie agent named Colin Tucker. In a short time, Johnny English and Tucker traveled and finally arrived in Hong Kong. Then they entered the biggest casino park there. There they were looking for information, but without realizing it, they were being watched in that place. Johnny English then explained to Tucker that the person they were looking for was a man wearing glasses. After that incident, Johnny English got a clue that was left on a casino coin there, which read Call on Paradise. Without lingering, Johnny English and Tucker headed to the place called Call on Paradise. But it turned out that there was an old lady who had been at the casino began to follow them. After following the clues on the coin, Johnny English finally met Titus Fisher, who was a former CIA agent. Fisher explained that there was a group called Vortex planning to kill the Chinese Prime Minister. Fisher, who knew this, turned out to be a member of the Vortex itself. He then said that Vortex had a very dangerous secret weapon, one of the 3 keys of which Fisher already had. Without that key, Vortex can't use the weapon. However, without Johnny English realizing it, the old lady was preparing to shoot Fisher. But right before that, Fisher explained that Vortex was also in Mozambique. When looking for the perpetrator, Johnny English only saw an elderly person who was cleaning. Without Johnny English realizing it, the old lady was the sneaky killer. But when he saw a bullet mark in the cleaning tube, Johnny English realized that the old lady was the cunning assassin. Plus, Fisher's necklace was taken by someone. When Johnny English cornered him, this is what happened. The person could escape Johnny English's ambush. Even Tucker also been tricked him with parkour moves. Then Johnny English chased him to the roof of the building. Johnny English and the Chinese man had to chase. Johnny English also remembered the words of his teacher to do anything with a wise mind. Here, we also know that intelligence will be more useful than strength. Even without doing extra stunts like in other action movies, Johnny English was able to keep up with the man. They arrived at a pier, where the man was aboard a small boat. With Johnny English's agent label, he easily could take over a boat on the dock. This is where Johnny English then uses Patch's high-tech device, a camera that can launch rockets. On a small pier, Johnny English and the Chinese man had to fight hand-to-hand. Since Johnny English is an experienced agent, without using many moves, he was able to make the man struggle against him. Once again, intelligence will always win out over strength. Johnny English also could get one of the Vortex keys. Long story short, on the plane, a flight attendant who looked like a man tried to bring Johnny English's belongings, although Tucker realized there was something strange about the flight attendant. Johnny English also explained that Tucker should always think positively. Back in London, England, Johnny English began to show the items he had gotten, but when the box was opened, there was nothing there to show. It turned out that the flight attendant was the culprit who had taken the key. From outside the door, Johnny English also saw a pink glove that was doing the cleaning. Johnny English thought that it was the assassin old lady from Hong Kong who had attacked him. He also tried to catch her, but it turned out that the woman was Pamela's mother. Then when Johnny English wanted to apologize to Pamela's mother, it turned out that the assassin old lady was already there and disguised herself as Pamela's mother, then attacking him. But again, Johnny English was wrong catching people, and for the second time he almost killed Pamela's mother. Then, seeing Johnny English, who was frustrated, a woman named Kate or Catherine Summer from MI7 came to accompany English. Then Kate took Johnny English to a place where there was a camera that could read the slightest facial movement and could detect emotional leaks. Because Kate is a professional in MI7, she also uses her hypnotic skills to make English look back into his past when he was in Mozambique. Formerly in a country called Mozambique, a president was shown to be inaugurated named President Chamble. But Johnny English, who was assigned there, was invited to take a bath together by a woman. This made the president have to been a shot. But with the tools that Kate has, Johnny English manages to reach everything in his memory. Then Johnny English could seize what Fisher said is true. That is the truth that the vortex is responsible for the death of President Chamble in Mozambique. A man named Artem Karlenko is finally revealed to be a member of Vortex. The next day, English and Tucker traveled to where Artem was. Soon, they arrived at a golf course where Artem was. Johnny English and Artem then met. They were seen having a little conversation. But again, the old lady assassin was in the same place. After that, she attacked them. Artem, who was shot, was taken by Johnny English and Tucker by helicopter. But because the gunshot wound was so severe, Artem couldn't be saved. But before his death, Artem said there was a traitor in MI7. After that, he gave the second key to Johnny English. When returning to attend a meeting, Pamela also asked Johnny English to immediately reveal the third person behind the vortex. Johnny English also asked them to give him another 24 hours. At a dinner restaurant, Johnny English held a meeting to welcome Simon back from Switzerland. Then Johnny English showed the second key he got from Artem Karlenko and explained that in MI7 there was a traitor who was a member of Vortex. Simon, who heard this, then pointed a gun from under the table, thought that he was been revealed. But apparently Johnny English didn't accuse Simon of being a traitor because he believed that Simon was a good agent and was one of his friends. Not long after, Johnny English received a call from Tucker. In the toilet, Tucker explained that the third person from Vortex was Simon, an agent who was a friend of Johnny English himself. Hearing this, Johnny English didn't even believe it. When Simon arrived, Tucker explained that after breaking into Artem's data, he found a photo showing Simon and Artem meeting. But even though the photo is strong evidence, Johnny English still doesn't believe that Simon is the one who has betrayed MI7. After dragging Tucker home, Simon also told him that there was someone who hated Johnny English, who might be the traitor Johnny English had been looking for all this time. And that man is named Patch. Johnny English foolishly believed the things Simon said. Even before going home, Johnny English gave the second key to Simon, which means Simon, who is the third number of Vortex that English doesn't know yet, already has all three keys to activate the secret weapon. The next day, in a church, Johnny English also met with Patch and prepared to arrest him. But Patch then said that Johnny English was the traitor. Everyone who was praying there turned out to be agents who were ready to arrest Johnny English. He, who was still confused, tried to escape. But unfortunately, one of English's legs had to be shot. Using Patch's wheelchair, Johnny English could escape from that place. But just feeling safe, it turned out that across the street all the agent troops were preparing to arrest Johnny English. But who would have thought, in the wheelchair it has an additional technology, which when activated makes the wheelchair run super fast. After escaping, Johnny English came to Kate's place to hide. And on the other hand, Simon is planning something to kill the Chinese Prime Minister. Meanwhile, at Kate's place, after Johnny English realized, Kate explained that according to what she had observed, there was something strange about the death of the president in Mozambique. After killing the president, the perpetrator, who was one of the agents, suddenly died for no apparent reason. And just before his death, he had contacted someone. Kate concluded that the agent who had killed the president had been controlled by a drug called tamoxifene, and the agent in charge of handling the drug was Fisher, who was a former agent of MI7. That means the incident in Mozambique was the work of Vortex. After explaining this complicated matter, Kate invited Johnny English to eat together, and just as they went to kiss, the doorbell of Kate's apartment rang, and when checking out, it turned out to be Simon, who seemed to be looking for Johnny English, as well as wanting to take Kate to the airport. It was only after they left that Johnny English realized that the third person in Vortex was Simon, the person he had trusted as his friend. After escaping from the old lady's assassin, Johnny English returned to meet Tucker with honor. Johnny English invited Tucker to carry out a rescue mission against their country. Using the most high-tech Rolls-Royce car ever, the two of them headed straight to Switzerland, because that's where the meeting between the two prime ministers was held. After arriving in Switzerland, they began to launch the plan that had been prepared. But when they wanted to use a climbing device, apparently it was a tool to call for help. As a result, their position is known. Because he was cornered, Johnny English told Tucker to hit him, so that it would appear that Tucker had caught Johnny English, who had become a wanted. Tucker started beating Johnny English. Tucker even had to shoot his bulletproof vest so he could be carried in a body bag. Long story short, Johnny English, who was still trapped in the body bag, then entered Pamela's room. Johnny English also explained that Simon was the one who had betrayed MI7 and was also a member of Vortex who was currently trying to kill the Chinese Prime Minister. But without realizing it, Johnny English had drunk a cup of drink that had been infused with the drug tamoxifen. In the end, Johnny English was successfully controlled by Simon. Johnny English was then assigned by Simon to be in bodyguard to the British Prime Minister at the meeting. And when the two had met, Simon told Johnny English to do his job, which was to kill the Prime Minister. Then Johnny English also remembered the message from his teacher when he was training in Tibet. It made him try to fight the effects of the drug. But because the time has passed 15 minutes, the side effects of the tamoxifen drug begin to work. It made Johnny English's heart stop beating. Seeing this, Kate swiftly kissed Johnny English, which in turn made Johnny English regain consciousness from the effects of the terrible drug. Seeing Simon, who had escaped without lingering, Johnny English swiftly chased him. This is where it appears that veteran agents are in action. Epic chase action occurs. And so they both arrived at a gondola to leave the Snow Mountain area, and in the gondola, a fight broke out between the two. Johnny English, who could kick Simon's gun, but then Johnny English got his hand stuck in the gondola hanger. When Johnny English's hand was stuck, that was Simon's opportunity to attack his weakest point. But it is known that Johnny English has been practicing his ball's power and determination while training in the Tibet mountains. When Simon was looking for his gun that had fallen during the fight, Johnny English retaliated against Simon by kicking him in the same area he got. Simon was in pain and Macon couldn't fight back. But because Johnny English stood too far back, he had to fall into a pile of snow. But with the T2 umbrella, a rocket was successfully fired, smashing Simon to pieces. After all that, Johnny English was asked to meet the Queen of England to receive an award for his services. But it turns out that the old lady assassin is still terrorizing Johnny English by disguising herself as the Queen. A struggle ensued, but unfortunately the old lady assassin could escape. And when Johnny English wanted to chase her, he lunged at the real Queen instead. And then this action comedy movie ended.